Okay. Hello, welcome to Semaphore Uncut, a show where we explore cutting-edge developer tools and meet people behind them. My name is Darko, I'm co-founder of Semaphore and your host today. Today with me is Peter. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Darko, for letting me be here. My name is Peter Steinberger. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called PSPDFKit. I'm a long-term iOS developer and over the years migrated to being the CEO and doing more business and less coding. And I'm located in Vienna, Austria.
Great. So maybe you can tell us a bit, about that migration path, to call it that way, from developer to the CEO and all that comes in with, starting a company and creating a product and so on.
All right, long story.
Yeah.
So I started the whole company in 2010. For that, I also need to explain a little bit what the product is. So what we do, the short pitch is, you have an iPhone or you have an Android, you open the Dropbox app, you click on a file, and you see the document or the image or the Office document, and that's us. The whole UI to present the document and allow people to search, select text, this is all our UI. And we provide that as an SDK to other companies. So it's not just Dropbox, it's also when you fly with Lufthansa, they have an iPad in the cockpit, our software runs on it. And it's IBM is a customer, a lot of large companies, but also a lot of small ones. And my background is iOS, so we started as an iOS product, and over the years we expanded to Android, web, Windows, even macOS. So now we're basically on all platforms. Because we support Electron, we actually on all platforms, including Linux.
Yeah.
But that's not the most purchased product. Okay, so where do I start? The whole thing was actually an experiment. So my background is that I did freelancing, and I was at my first WWDC, the Apple conference, which is finally coming up next week. So my flight is on Sunday. And I was there, was talking to a few people at a party at 2 a.m., almost 2 a.m., because clubs close at 2. And somebody introduced me to someone as what I do. And I'm a pretty good iOS developer, blah, blah, blah. And basically they told me to oh yeah, I should come by their office tomorrow. And this casual come by was actually an 8-hour interview marathon where I got a job offer to work in San Francisco on a pretty popular startup back in the day. And that was kind of it. I knew that I had to move over there, right? I was just a small freelancer. This was the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
So wasn't a long thought process to accept it. And then we thought, oh, we will figure out the visa stuff. But we figured out the visa stuff. It just took a little longer than expected. So instead of I think we thought, 2-3 months, it ultimately took 9 months. And in that time, I did stop all my freelance work because I can't really work on longer projects when I'm moving to San Francisco and any day now, right? And there, a friend asked me if he could also have this PDF engine that I built for a client of mine. And so I did that, I refactored it, I sold it to him, and then I figured, well, if he has this requirement, maybe other people have that too. So I tried to do the absolute minimum possible. I mutilated the WordPress template to become a website, a static one, hosted on GitHub. I looked for a payment processor, and I just asked Twitter, and then a few people said the same thing, so I chose one, and I put it online. And I also put up a tweet, and I had a pretty decent network back then already, and people bought it. I think I sold 2 copies in the first week, so I was really hooked. This was okay, there's actual demand, this is fun. I already made money, And of course, two people bought it, but I think like got like five more people who were interested, but it misses this feature and this feature and this feature and this feature. So I just like I didn't have anything else to do, so I just kept working on it and like I slowly discovered what a clusterfuck PDF actually is.
But it was too late by
Um,
then.
yeah, you'd be surprised how difficult search can be, and there's like many thousands pages of documentation and like multiple mappings that are really hard to understand to actually get Unicode out of it because this predates Unicode.
Yeah.
So they used all kind of tricks to embed glyphs, not necessarily optimized for you to get the data out again. Um, yeah, and long story short, by the time I moved to San Francisco, my little project, my little experiment already made almost the same money that I made at the job there. So I was kind of like in this
I
mood
quit.
of, okay, no, I was like I was giving up my life here. I was selling everything. I was moving over. I was really excited to be in San Francisco. Like it's an amazing city with like so many awesome people. But at the same time, like I had this little thing that exploded and was really interesting. So I tried to just do
Ah,
both.
okay. Here it starts to become very interesting.
So you can imagine how that happened. Because a startup is not 8 hours of work. It's a little more than 8 hours usually.
Yeah.
So I did that during the day. I did my thing at night and on weekends. And that worked for a few months, more or less, until my manager, actually was very lucky. She is an amazing manager. Shout out to Sabine if she sees that. And she came to me like one day and she looked at me and said, Peter, is everything okay?
Yeah.
You don't look so good. Because there was like a slight lack of sleep. Because trying to do both really was like eating in on my
Yeah.
health.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So like I told the whole story and they were very understanding, but also like basically told me what I knew, but I didn't want to like you know it, but you don't want to like accept it that I can't do both. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's impossible to do both. It's already a challenge to do one of those two things. So they gave me a week off to like think about it, decide like what's more important, what do I actually want to do. And I honestly didn't even need the whole week. I already knew that I wanted to work on my company. But then I understood that it's actually a company now. And that meant that I had to leave the US within a week
Mhm.
because the visa rules are quite tight. Um,
Either you're with us or you
so I
are not with us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this wasn't within that company's control. They were actually
Understood.
really
Yeah.
nice. Um, but obviously, if I don't work there anymore, then I have to leave the country. So I just manically tried to sell the few things that I managed to buy, which was like a bed, a couch, and a TV. Um, and then I moved back to Austria, and then I slowly started. No, not slowly. I immediately started to like fully work on on the product. Basically, filling all the remaining hours to like work even more on it, and then also slowly working with more people, and then step by step becoming to the place where I'm now, where we are a 40-person company, fully distributed, um, and working on a lot of products.
Yeah. And maybe since we went so in details around like how it started, and yeah, it's amazing to hear that in a couple of months after you launched it, you immediately kind of you get self-sufficient in a way financially. Were there any like turning points along? I mean, it's almost a 10-year period, and it's fully bootstrapped, as I understand, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So there was a big turning point, and that was I think 2014,
Mm-hmm.
because it was still I was quite slow in getting help, like getting more people on it, and then like just having freelancers for like a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of time. Um, And there was this point where I had to decide, okay, do I see this as a just iOS, like keep small, like do like basically what interested me the most, just like keep coding and like trying to like make some money, or do I want to become bigger? Do we go multi-platform? Do we make this a serious competitor, a serious company? And I kind of knew that if we just stay on iOS, then we would eventually fall into insignificance. Because in 2010, you could still be successful as a product that's just on iOS, but in
Yeah.
2019, you cannot. Android like had this big increase, and you just can't ignore it anymore. It became it might start as something that's like that you could laugh at, but now it's a serious operating system, and it's what most of the world
Yeah.
runs on. So 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 this was around the time where I started. No, we have to go big, and like I actually brought people into the company, also like to get me some help on the finance side and the business side on web and backend, like all these things that I wasn't an expert in. And then this is basically the birth of version 2.0 of the
Hmm.
company. And then we had like a strong hiring phase where we really brought on a lot of people and really started to building out all those other products. And um, yeah, that was quite a turning point. Also from the business model,
Hmm.
because we used to sell it like the traditional software model. You buy software and then you get a few months of updates, and then maybe at some point you buy another
Hmm.
version of it. And this was suboptimal in a few ways because um, do you give updates until the next major version? Do you have a fixed number of months? Like um, that is already is troubled. And what if people report bugs and then their support time runs out? Do you give them a grace period? It also was really hard to actually hire people if you don't know how much income you get each month. Like all these SaaS
Yeah.
businesses, they have recurring income. So the first big change we did is that we actually switched to a subscription model as well. Because if you use our product, you integrate it in your app, you will need continuous support. You will have continuous issues because
The world doesn't stand
there are
still.
so many and there are so many crazy documents out there that eventually you'll find something that doesn't
Yeah.
work, or you will have new needs, or Apple releases iOS 13 and the old version just doesn't
Sure.
work anymore, which isn't even our fault. It's just because they changed something and we need to adapt. So I was quite skeptical, but Jonathan, one of the people who I brought on, was like, "No, we have to do this. This is important, and trust me." And I did, and it worked out really, really well for us. Um, and there was like almost no backslash. Like there's quite a bit of backslash from the consumer side that, especially on apps, they really don't like subscriptions. But businesses, many
For
actually
sure.
liked the change because it suddenly means they could calculate what the costs are each year. It was not like, okay, we buy it, but then if you buy it in a year, price might be twice as much, or we don't know. So it also like increased trust with our business relationships and really helped us to grow the business.
Yeah. I mean that was kind of one of my questions because you answered it partially. Most of the people are in some kind of SaaS, and you are actually selling software in a bit of a different format, a library to say, or framework, which
Yeah.
is, yeah, I don't know, maybe not that common, or let's say in most is like SaaS, and yeah, it's a
Yeah,
different,
yeah.
it's a different thing. Yeah, and
It's different, and it's also the cycle is much longer. Typically, if you're a SaaS company, you test the service, you like the service, you purchase it. But our model is you like the SDK, you try it out. You might take 6 months to integrate it into your app. I mean, it takes 5 minutes, but it might not be, you might not be ready to integrate it in your app. So you start talking, then you try it for half a year, you already use our support, and then eventually we come to an agreement, you're committed to it, like we go through the whole contractual phase, and then lawyers come in. And then it also might take a few months, and then we close it, and then large companies, they don't manage to pay in 30 days, so that might also take 6 months. So the whole cycle can take like more than a year from people trying it out to we actually getting money. So you really have to have a long breath in this business. But luckily we managed, and now we are at the point where it's not a problem anymore. It's just something you have to get used to.
Yeah, well, there is another part to this story, which is that they cannot leave that easily. Also, once it's integrated. I'm not saying that it's like good as a business practice to just keep someone who is dissatisfied, because you kind of put your claws into their meat, but it's also like about switching, so they can I mean, if you onboard in 5 minutes, you can onboard competitor in 5 minutes also. So it's just that other side of the coin. But I completely understand that sales process, which can wants to take a year and a half, is not something that you always enjoy.
Yeah, I guess it's just the nature of our business.
Yeah. You have to embrace it.
But yeah.
Okay, I have a bit of a technical question. You kind of scratched that, so I'm just interested. So even with I was in elementary school, many years before that, PDF existed, and I remember that very old Acrobat reader thing and all that.
Yeah.
So it's like super old format, which is still alive today, and it seems that it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And in just I don't know, I discovered some things that are possible with PDF maybe a couple of years ago, like signatures, filling out some data, and more and more things are popping up. So from very that geeky developer technical standpoint of an industry standard, how is that evolution of such a complex file format going, and what's the experience of following it?
So you're right that PDF is old, and it's also not going away. It's pretty much the only format where you can make sure that whatever you convert, like you convert it from some kind of document, and then it'll look exactly like that. This is the big benefit. You have a Word file, and it will mostly look the same, but you open it in LibreOffice or in OpenOffice, and it might, like, it has 100 pages, and page 1 might not fully fit on page 1. Yeah. And then the error accumulates, and by page 100, everything's a mess. Websites mostly look the same, but browsers change, so eventually it'll not look the same anymore. And so that's the big benefit. You can have a contract, and you can make sure that when you refer to page 7, that the content on page 7 actually is on page 7, because it could be very expensive if you refer to something on page 8, 6 or 6, 8. So the whole business runs on PDF, and there's no competitor. Microsoft tried XPS, I think, but it never had like this critical mass. And every platform, every mobile device can read PDF, so it is just really ubiquitous. And then over the years, they just kept adding things. So if you want to see something that's really crazy,
sure.
This is a calculator.
Okay.
So you can but it's also a PDF.
Okay.
So we built a calculator which is a PDF. We just made it look like the calculator on an iPhone, because PDF also can run JavaScript. Of course, it's not the same JavaScript as in the browser. It's similar, but not the same. Yeah. With all kinds of custom extensions to make it really fun for us. And the spec alone is around 1,000 pages. But in principle, it's Turing complete, so you can do anything. You could make a PDF which runs Windows 95 if you really hate yourself. That's on my bucket list. But first do and before that we did calculator.pdf. But that's actually something that's really useful, because you have those government forms and you have to fill in all your social security number. And sometimes they use JavaScript to validate the input. So with it's Turing complete, so you can like really validate any input, even emails,
Sure.
something that wasn't so popular 30 years ago when they created a format. So there actually is a reason. Um, some people just go a little beyond that, and we wanted to show that our engine can like even deal with crazy things. So we made a calculator.
Yeah. And is that so? If I would open that PDF on my Red Hat 1998 installation, would I be able to see something? Is it like backward compatibility? Is it a thing?
I mean, if you have an Acrobat reader from 1998, might be a little tough, but from 6 or 7 years ago, this would still work. The format is we're not using super new features. By now there is the PDF2.0 spec, but nobody actually uses that. They actually removed a few things, but then they added even more things. So by now we have two different standards. No, actually, three different standards for 3D in PDF. There's also video in PDF, audio in PDF. You can also put a PDF in a PDF because why not? So yeah, like if it's from a few years ago, it should work. But especially JavaScript support there's not that much software who goes to that length. So if you look into third-party software, it will be quite difficult to find something. Like Apple has Preview, which is pretty good on PDF, but it can't do JavaScript. So you can press the buttons, but nothing will happen. But it will still look the same. That's the same. It will still look exactly like it should look.
That's important enough, as you said. That's a big thing. I can imagine that vendors are not too crazy about putting JavaScript engine everywhere they have to show something. Yeah.
Yeah, we made sure that this is something you can disable in our software. It is enabled by default because we want to choose the sensible thing, just making sure that as much PDF work as possible, whenever you have like hidden security issues, you can always disable that. But not many people actually know that you can have JavaScript in a PDF. So
yeah, I did not.
I also did not when I started. I did not quite know what I was getting into. Maybe I would have chosen a different career.
Yeah. I remember at university we had some of those tasks when you take some format which is defined in 1981, and then you have to read the spec. So I guess that the spec of PDF is a quite long file.
Yeah, and the problem is the format is more like HTML. Even if you remove a few things, it'll still work. So you have the spec, but then you have the what's Acrobat actually doing? And then you have the, this is completely broken. Let's try something. And then make sure that try something is kind of like compatible with what the majority of apps does. Because in the end, people don't care if their PDF is broken or not. They probably got it from somewhere, they just want to read it. So our mission is that the software shouldn't complain, it should just read it. And we also try to repair it automatically, which also is interesting because I think we recently had a bug where we repaired a document which was in a pretty bad state, but it could still be read. But then we saved it, and it was like less broken, but it was in a different way broken, which caused other readers to like no longer accept it. So like people blamed us for breaking the PDF, and actually we repaired like 8 of 10 things, but then not 2 things, which then ultimately caused incompatibility with other readers. So you always have a lot of fun, even if you try to do the right thing.
Yeah. To be honest, sounds. I'm a bit afraid of that. Yeah.
That's why it's a good business, because nobody wants to work with PDF.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, from the perspective of like supporting developers and working with developers, providing documentation and so on. Do you have like dedicated team which is like supporting people and writing documentation, or how that process is done?
So we have this mission in our company that every developer should also write documentation and do support, because it ultimately makes you a better engineer. If you write a feature, then you're the best person to document that feature. Of course, we have like people that help, people that provide copy editing, because not every person in our company has English as his first language. And then we also make our engineers work on support. So it's kind of like weekly shifts. But that's the best way to like understand the crimes
Yes.
you did. So like you design an API, and then you actually get feedback from other engineers that don't understand your API, or like ask questions that make you learn, oh right, actually maybe not all the decisions were the best decisions. So of course this is not always fun, but it ultimately is like an amazing learning process for you to become a better engineer.
Yeah.
So
defining APIs
yeah,
that you
everybody.
can't change that easily
Yeah.
is another level of like responsibility.
Yeah, of course we have a process like new APIs peer reviewed, so we find a lot of problems before we ship them, but we're not perfect, so sometimes you just don't consider things that people want to do with your API that you just never thought of, and that of course break, and you just have to try to fix it. Yeah, honestly, this is one of the most challenging and fun things when building this product.
Yeah, I completely can relate to that part. Yeah. Okay. So maybe enough about PDFs. Yeah, I'm joking. You mentioned that iOS is like, how you started your career as developer, and I think maybe before the call or in the call you mentioned that this is the 10th time that you are, visiting, the developer conference that Apple is organizing. So yeah, yeah, maybe just before that to make like one thing sure that I understand. So PDF is the main thing that you are supporting, but there are other formats also that your framework is supporting, right?
We're focusing on PDF and images. We actually found a way to treat images like PDF. You can annotate them, and then you can open it and then move those things around, and we make sure that the pixels below the arrow is still there, so it's like non-destructive. But the main focus is PDF.
Okay. Yeah, I think it can be useful for our viewers to know the exact focus. Okay, so moving to the conference. So it's happening. It's happening soon. So predictions in this area are always, the internet is burning, in terms of what will happen, and if what they want will, gets launched, and yeah. So maybe what are you excited about, and yeah, what are some predictions that you have?
I mean, obviously, I'm excited about seeing all of my friends again. That over the years, you could just get to know more and more people. I've been there quite a few times. Every time since 2010, except 2013, where I just went to Tenerife for holiday.
Which was not such a bad decision.
Yeah, it was not. But honestly, like DubDub is a very exciting conference. It's pretty much the Apple event of the year. Like they will announce the new iOS 13, the new macOS. Like the latest rumor that it might be called macOS Mammoth. Like the large elephant-like animal. And of course, new versions of tvOS and macOS. There won't be any hardware. That was a long time ago since Apple announced hardware at DubDub. It's really a software-focused conference. They actually announced the new MacBooks a week before, right? So, and iPhone is more like a September event. So this will really be just about software. And when you look at what was happening last year, Apple got quite a lot of bad press with iOS 11 that software gets slower. There's like so many bugs. Like Apple just pushes new features and they don't take the time to fix their things. So they actually fixed their things. So iOS 12 was really a performance update and bug fixes, the changelog that everyone
Yeah.
loves. But there was really almost nothing new. And I know a lot of people that were working on features that just, like they were already working a year ago on features that didn't ship in iOS 12. So basically what we get this year is 2 years worth of
Well,
features. Because we had this bug fix release, which I think was really important for the Apple ecosystem, and it really made the software better. But now it's time again to like level up on features. So we will see a lot of new things this year. There's like actually quite extensive rumors. So I guess most of the things that we'll see next week are already on the internet. The most visible thing will be that the iPhones get dark mode, system-wide dark mode. Of course, Android was there first. And we got system-wide dark mode on macOS as well, so it really makes sense to also bring it to iOS, which also means all the apps need to be updated because a lot of them already have their own dark mode, but then it might not fit in the what Apple expects things to look like. And you also have to find a way to dynamically switch because this will be something that you can access from the lock screen. And I expect that it will also be something that the system automatically switches to, like sun goes down, okay, we switch to dark mode. So a lot of developers will be busy just making sure everything looks good. And getting dark mode right is actually, depending on the app, quite a bit of work. Then one cool feature I'm actually excited about is iPad.
Okay.
And they will introduce a feature that will allow you to like have iPad as a second screen. So I could then, I don't know, have my notes on this iPad, just drag it over from the Mac and use it as a screen. There's software where you can do this now. It works actually not that bad. Duet and there's a second one, which name I forgot. But of course, this is a very system level feature. So if Apple builds it, they will be able to like have faster access to the graphics, push pixels over faster, like have better auto discovery. So this is something that is quite hard to build for external companies, and Apple will just be able to build something that's superior to everything there is. The most exciting thing is something we already got a lot of rumors, and I already had a lot of fun debugging and like hacking into it. Is Marzipan. And I'm sure you heard about it as well. Like the way that like Apple brings the UI widgets that make iPhone and iPad apps possible to the Mac. So there is no native Netflix app, for example, on the Mac. With Marzipan, the idea is that you take the existing Netflix app that Netflix already built for iPad and iPhone, and you just select a different target, and then it will work on the Mac without any modifications.
Will it?
Obvious. I think like an asterisk applies, like terms and conditions may apply. I did play with it, and it's actually surprisingly good. The Marzipan, as it is in 10.14, is quite a hack. But I was basically able to port our app, PDF Viewer, which is quite a complex app to, well, show PDF, annotate them, like the whole SDK and file management to macOS. Well, I didn't sleep so much in that time, but I managed to do it in a weekend, which says it's actually the technology, even in this early state, was already quite advanced, and Apple had a full year to make it even better. So yes, I think it will be possible to do it with very few modifications. You probably want to do modifications to make it more Mac-like, improve keyboard support, add the menu, like add an actual toolbar, like those little things that make apps actually more usable. But I expect that in autumn there will be a ton of new apps for the Mac, just because when it was for many companies not cost effective to build and a separate version based on AppKit that might take you 2 years to build and to be really good just for the Mac because the user base is quite smaller compared to Windows. But now if you can do it in a week or in 2 weeks and also improvements go into both products, that's a whole different equation. And also it's the hot new thing that Apple wants. So if you are fast, Apple will feature you. So there will be a run. And we also like part of this run, and we will bring PDF Viewer to the Mac.
Yeah,
so I'm quite excited about that one.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, even if some layer of UI needs some tweaks, there is still a large chunk of software which will just work. Yeah, that's amazing. To be honest, I'm not very deep in the I use Mac for a lot of years and iPhone, but I'm not in the developer world for this platform. So that's a great business move to say to extend the macOS. Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion around it and also a lot of hate, especially those older Mac people. They were like, oh, this new thing will never work as good. Apple is destroying the Mac. This single window iOS style apps, they're all shit. Like, this is not something that's professional. But we'll see. I'm sure that Apple has some ideas to solve this. And I think what apps are will just evolve, but that doesn't mean it will be bad.
And there will be some path until they perfect it, and I'm sure that they will. Yeah. Okay, amazing. It was very interesting learning about all these things and about your journey as developer at the company. And
thank you.
Is there maybe something that I haven't asked, but you think that it's interesting to share, either about the company or something about the future?
Yes. Difficult.
That's the idea.
I can't think of anything right now, but definitely like one thing might be like if you watch the keynote, don't just watch it with Twitter and just follow a few of those Mac people, and then like this is for me always the most fun, just like seeing what Apple says and then all the commentary live, what people say, and then there's like complaining and bitching and like background information, and it's stressful because you kind of have to see, okay, what's Apple saying, and then also trying to read the whole feed. But I'm always having a lot of fun trying to do both and also like participating in the commentary. And now like watching any Apple event without Twitter is just boring. So if you watch the next one, I definitely commend just maybe just search for the hashtag and then pick a few people that you like, because if you actually just follow the hashtag, it'll be way too much information. But yeah, this is quite a different viewing experience. You like it?
I like the idea very much. I mean, in my head, while you were speaking about this, I imagined a pub, with like a football fans.
Sometimes it could also be like an angry mob.
Yes.
They still haven't fixed the keyboard. And now they're announcing new things. Yeah. What is Apple doing? There's always a lot of bitching, and then like it's always the case that there's a lot of bitching, and then everybody's buying all the Apple products, including me. Like I complain a lot, and then I spend thousands of euros to buy everything that Apple produces, which is. What can you do? Also, like we build software for Apple, so we have to buy Apple products. And comparably, I also know the ecosystems of like Windows and Android, and all the problems there. And then, like since I know that, I'm less complaining about Apple, to be honest.
Yeah, It's only you can only make good decisions by comparison. Otherwise, Yeah, it's all nonsense. Okay, well, thank you again for your time. It was super exciting to talk about everything. Good luck with your company, launching new things. And have fun at developer event.
You're welcome, Darkus. Thank you for having me, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.